Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. Hold on. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax so we can chat about what is happening in the sky above and how it reflects the deep shifts happening within us and all around us. That's today's show. It's all about the depth, right? Today we are diving into a subject that I have been uh, wrestling with how to bring it to your attention, wrestling with whether I should even bring it to your attention. And I finally decided, F all of that. I'm just going to say what I need to say. You guys can decide whether you agree or disagree. It's not even really about whether you agree or disagree. It's about taking a different look, perhaps, at the stage of our evolution and consciousness that we are at. So this morning, I'm actually going to start with the astrological landscape and the human design landscape. We're going to do that very quickly because then I'm moving into what is part one of a three, maybe four-part discussion on something called the death of the strongman. And this has to do with Pluto in Aquarius and the impact it's having on us here in the USA because we are in our Pluto return or just finished the Pluto return, but also throughout the world because it's not just us that is experiencing this craziness that is happening. So sit back, get ready. If I piss you off, oh well, I'm sorry for that. But the only thing that I can say about that is to look within and understand why it is that you are getting triggered by anything I might be saying. I am going to try to be as even keeled and as objective as I can be. So let's take it from there, okay? I know I showed the script for today's show to my daughter, and she's like, "You're going to lose listeners." I said, "You know what? I don't really care. I don't care about the numbers of people. It's the quality of what it is the message is. And today's message has some quality and some bite to it. So sit back, all right? First, the reason this is coming up at all is that we had yesterday's new moon that had a very interesting pattern in it. And part of that pattern was the sun and moon together in their conjunction in opposition to Pluto. Now, it wasn't exact yesterday, but it is today, right? Today is the sun exact opposition to Pluto, which is really all about truth versus power. And it's interesting because in the conversations that I've had this morning behind the scenes with text messaging friends and family and so forth, it's really been about that, which is kind of funny to watch life imitate art. In this case, the astrological landscape being shown to us very clearly in the relationships we have with others. So today, the sun in Leo stands directly opposite of Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. And this is a powerful and revealing aspect that really spotlights the dynamic between personal expression and collective transformation. And, you know, it, there should be no doubt in anybody's mind right now that we are standing at the time in history of a very major transformation. The Leo sun says, "See me, look at me, here I am," right? And hear me, I matter. And Pluto in Aquarius counters with, "What matters is the system, the future, and the community." The opposition between the two, clarification, validation, sneezes, bring validation. The opposition asks, are you leading from ego or purpose, right? Are you clinging to control or allowing truth to rise up, even if it challenges the status quo? Truth, right? On a personal level, for each of us individually, this can trigger a moment of reckoning about how it is we present ourselves as leaders or creators in the world. So we have to let go of the outdated power structures when Sun is opposing Pluto, and we have to release that within and around all of us, each of us as individuals. So something is ready to be reborn. And when you think about this, the sun came into the conjunction with Pluto back in February. That's when the sun was moving through the sign of Aquarius. And then there was the square that would have happened in the spring, right? Later in the spring, early summer. And here we are now at the opposition point where the sun and or Leo and Aquarius are opposing one another. So it's a part of a cycle that continues every year between the sun and Pluto. It just happens to be a year where there is so much going on because Pluto recently changed signs, Neptune and Saturn changed signs, Jupiter changed signs, Uranus changed signs. So we have this, balloon of change that's been, coming like at us like a train since the beginning of the year, right? So lots transforming. So this Pluto opposing the sun, or sun opposing Pluto is the more correct way to say it, is the backdrop for part one of the death of the strongman that we will be talking about today. Before we get there, we've also had the birth of a new human design week, and I want to talk about that before I go into the main guts of the day. The sun is now in the gate 31, ironically enough, called the gate of the leader, right? Or of democratic leadership. And the earth in gate 41, which is the gate of imagination, right? It is the start codon. Gate 41 is the start codon of your DNA. It is the first gate that we hit in the beginning of the human design year. And it has a lot of energy that is birthed from imagination, right? If we cannot imagine it, we cannot create it, right? If we cannot first see it in our mind's eye, we cannot create it. So the gate 41, Earth, saying we have to ground ourselves in what we can see, in our vision, in what's possible, in order to bring it into reality, in order to birth it. Okay. So this is a fascinating pairing of gates, given the world that we live in at the moment, where leadership rooted or is rooted in vision and imagination, right? The earth always rooting the energy so that we can make it to the highest expression of the sun. Now, the gate 31, the leader, is sitting on the throat center of your human design. And this is the gate that teaches us that true leadership is conferred, not claimed. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about earning trust and speaking for the good of the collective, not just for oneself or one's egoic machinations, right? It's from truth. And when you align your voice with the needs of the tribe, people listen. And it's the leadership of influence. And it's not authority, right? It's not authority or authoritarian. And if we look at it in the gene keys, because I like to take it deeper, we've got to look at it through the shadow, the gift, and the city. In the shadow, the gate of the leader becomes arrogance, and it's misusing influence and misusing influence by egoic control, let's say. The I know best kind of energy that doesn't listen to the needs of the people or the needs of the group, right? Or even the input of the group. And in the gift level, we rise to leadership, which true leadership arises from humility and vision and service. And you speak on behalf of the collective if you are a true leader, not from a personal agenda. And as we move into the highest expression, the siddhi, the highest expression in this energy, it's humility. And the purest leadership is transparent and egoless energy, right? At this level, leadership disappears, really, and truth leads the way. It doesn't have anything to do anymore with that person or with that entity that's leading. It has to do with the fact that it stands in truth and it leads through the collective truth. So the takeaway, message. When you speak this week, speak from truth and not for applause, right? Not for being seen as the God Almighty, right? Leadership comes from alignment, not assertion. Now, with the gate 41, the gate of imagination, which sits in the root center, by the way. And remember, this is a start codon. This is an energy that begins stuff, right? It says, I imagine, therefore I can create. And then it sets about to create, right? So it's known as this gate where all experiences begin. It's a wellspring, if you will, of longing, of fantasy and creative pressure, the pressure to create, to build, to see something better in the world. And this week grounds us in the emotional desire to begin something new, to explore potential before they're born, to envision and to imagine and to create from that space. In quantum human design, this is the gate of the divine spark, where your imagination connects to the cosmos to seed new stories, right? To seed new experiences. When we look at Earth in the gene keys, the theme is about emotional hunger. It leads over to the gates on the emotional solar plexus. So it leads from the 41 to the 30. So the 30 is called the gate of desire. So we have desire and hunger and wants and passion all built into this gate 41. It's creative pressure and it's the potential for new beginnings that are grounded in a positive imagination. But in the shadow, the gate 41 is fantasy, getting lost in illusions, right? Or escaping the present moment through unmet desires. Thus, we have vast numbers of people that throw themselves into the role playing type games of virtual reality games, right? Escaping our telephones, which I put mine aside this morning so I wouldn't do this, but our phones, our devices that we can get lost in, that cause us to lose connection with one another. Although you could argue that it does connect us to others, but in a less personal way, right? So the shadow here is these unmet desires that we are either escaping from since we can't get what we want, we escape from it through these other vices that we have, or we get lost in the illusions of the world. In the gift level, the gate 41 becomes anticipation. And this is feeling the pressure of something new, but waiting with readiness rather than forcing a new beginning, knowing when the time is right, that all the doors will open, that all the windows will open, right? That you will then be able to step forward forcefully, right? And decidedly into that new beginning. In the city, the highest expression, this is a word that I actually love called emanation. And this is the seed of all experience. This is the start codon of reality itself, right? Pure potential radiates kind of outward from this emanation, from this city, birthing all creation, right? Emanation is all that's possible that could be, right, in our imagination. So we're living in a world that's chaotic, disruptive, corrupted. And yet, if we can imagine a world where all of that is healed, where those wounds are no longer being displayed to us in shadow form in the outer world, then we can create it. We can create that golden age. We can create that loving world. But if we can't imagine it, we won't be able to create it. And we'll keep on seeing the creation of the hell on earth that we have actually been experiencing. So your longings, your wants, your desires, they're sacred. They're telling you something about what you could create, right? If you can dream it, if it's in your imagination, you can have it. That's the thing, right? We're like pining away for something in our vision. The only thing that's missing is the taking of the action to get to where you want to go. So the 41 sets the stage. Where do you want to go? What do you want to create? And then holding the space for that to happen in the right timing, right? With the right people in the right way. So this week, feel what it is that needs to be born from you. What is it that you are longing to do or to say or to be? Not from urgency, not from, I gotta do it now, but from inspired clarity. This is the right time to take that action. This is the right time to do this. Okay. So together, the sun in the gate 31 and the earth in the gate 41 invite us to lead with vision and kind of influence with imagination. And the world doesn't need more control. We don't need more control, but it does need more inspired guidance. And that's what we are inspired to be, to do as this week unfolds. Now, on Monday during my broadcast, I totally forgot to talk to you about the fact that Jupiter had also made a gate move in human design, and Jupiter had moved into the gate 39 on the 22nd. So if you go back to that day and you think, the energy of growth and expansion, how did it change perhaps on that day for you? Start to make that change. So that's when Jupiter entered the gate 39, activating this energy of recalibration, right? When we were talking about the energy of July back, what's the date today? 25 days ago. We talked very much about how July would be this month of recalibrating, being provoked into recalibration, right? That is the theme here. And then partly that comes from Jupiter also carrying that same theme later in the month until the next 3 or 4 weeks when he will change gates yet again. So this growth through contrast is the energy that we really experience in the sign or in the gate 39. And it's a root center energy that provokes movement by pressing on your edges, right? Pushing on your edges like a balloon, right? We keep blowing, blowing, blowing. And how far can we do that before it explodes, right? So pressing on your edges, asking you to grow beyond where you are. It shows you where you feel stuck or where you feel maybe misaligned, where you need to take steps to move beyond where you've gotten yourself stuck. But it's not about a punishment, it's an invitation for recalibration, to retool, to rekey, to renew, to reevaluate, and then ultimately to recalibrate your actions, your beliefs, and provoking you to move more toward abundance, the abundance of spirit, which is what is the opposite gate, the gate 55, right? The dream of the dragonfly, right? That ability to just morph when needed into something bigger, grander, more magnificent, more useful, right? Um, so in quantum human design is where you find the name recalibration for this gate. In traditional human design, it's the gate of provocation, where it's provocateur type energy. So it reminds us that pressure points aren't obstacles, right? They're not necessarily where you stop, but they are invitations to realign with your higher potential, to get back into alignment with the truth of who you are. So reflecting on questions like, where are you being poked or pressed right now? Where's the universe kind of saying, go that way? And can you see it as this cosmic nudge towards something more aligned for you, right? Rather than feeling downtrodden. I had an issue around this yesterday. This was so funny because um, it feels to me like every time I have this great idea about something that I want to produce, something that I want to share with you all, which I had an aha moment this week that we're going to talk about in a moment, um, that something happens to shut it down. And yesterday, in the middle of some exciting, getting stuff together, the internet went out. Starlink went down for not just us, like 38 million people had this issue around the country for whatever reason it happened. And it stopped me cold, stopped me dead. And I remember thinking to myself, why does this always happen when I'm in the middle of a creative moment? When I'm really inspired to do something? Why does this happen? Right? I was being provoked. I was being recalibrated, right? The message wasn't quite complete yet. And I needed time away from what I was doing in order to see the light, if you will. So Jupiter in the gate 39 of provocation or recalibration can do that for us. It can show us where we're off track. It can show us where we're bumping up against boundaries, right? So if we look at the gate 39 through the gene keys, we see the shadow is actually provocation and it's reaction, right? This is reacting to life's challenges with frustration or defensiveness or resistance, which just drains our energy. So what I had to do during this time yesterday was to go do something different. I sat down and did a painting, a diamond painting. I spent my time doing something creative where my mind could get away from the BS conversation it was having with me about never getting to do what I wanted to do. or, why am I always being shut down when something exciting is happening? The gift in the gate 39 is called dynamism. So dynamism speaks to motion, right? It's transmuting provocation into forward motion. Creative tension becomes sort of your rocket fuel for blast off, right? It's time to get moving. In this city, this leads us to liberation. The highest expression of provocation or of the gene key 39 takes us into true freedom, liberation, and it's true freedom that emerges when nothing can provoke you or disturb your inner peace, when you can stay balanced and centered. You become a master of your own energy at that point, right? Nothing outside of you can disturb you, right? So what's provoking you is also recalibrating you. And let that friction be your filter. Maybe what stays, what goes, what transforms is all due to your recalibration moment. All right. All right, let's say good morning before I transfer over to the main meat of this morning's broadcast. And let's see, I saw at the very beginning Julie here this morning. Hi, Julie. Great to have you with us. Diana S., good morning to you. She said, made it through the new moon conjunction to her natal Uranus and Sun opposing Pluto. Whoa! In the 12th house, 6th house axis. And tomorrow I will have circled the earth for 69 years. Congratulations and happy birthday, Diana. Teddy, good morning to you. Remember, love, share, and most definitely subscribe. Thank you very much for that reminder. And Asa, good morning to you. And let's see, after that, Kamal, great to have you with us. Happy birthday to you, Kamal. And Terry, good morning to you. Tom, hello to you. Asa says, blessed solar return and happy birthday. Kamal says, can I get your wisdom and guidance over my chart today in this live? Thank you in advance. I won't probably have time for that, but we'll see what happens, okay? And Patty, glad you found your headset. You caught that in the beginning. I totally forgot I didn't have it on yet. And funny thing, right? Jackie, good morning to you. I think that is J-Lo, not sure. All right, guys, I've dawdled long enough. So today's conversation, the deeper part of today's conversation, marks the beginning of a 3-part, maybe 4-part series that I believe is one of the most important teachings that I have ever shared, that I've ever dared to share with all of you. And it's not just astrology this morning that we're going to be talking about. It's a map of our soul's reckoning and the death of something that can no longer survive. And we are living through a time that I want to call the end of the strongman era. So the name of the script for this morning was The Death of the Strongman, right? And the Rise of Truth. So let's set the stage about this first. When does power stop working? And this week, lately, not just this week, but lately, and I bet all of you have had this actually happening for you as well. I found myself deep in thought about the state of the world, and not just politically, but archetypally, because I'm thinking to myself, what am I seeing out there? I do not like what I'm seeing out there. How is that serving the collective? How is that archetypally happening at this point in our history, right? I've been watching, listening, and wondering, why do the same power structures keep repeating themselves? Even when we know they don't work, right? The same things keep happening almost ad nauseum. Why are we still clinging to leaders who dominate rather than guide? And why does truth still take a backseat to the control measures, right, that they enact upon us? And these questions, they're not just musings, although I thought that was my mind just moving through all of the myriads of things it does. These are the stirrings of Pluto in Aquarius, right? And they're what led me to do this series, to share this information with all of you this morning. Because right now, as you know, Pluto has entered the sign of Aquarius, and it's the first time he's been in Aquarius since the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and with it comes a reckoning, not just with governments and systems, but with power itself, our relationship to power and control. We're witnessing the final chapter, hopefully, the final chapter of this strongman archetype, the one who rises by fear, the one who rises by control and taking control and stays in power through manipulation. And as Pluto dismantles what no longer serves the collective, we're being asked to see this archetype clearly, to feel the grief of its collapse, and choose something different, right? Choose, again, a different path, not just out there in the world, but within ourselves, right? We have to choose it first within us if we want to see it out in the world. Now, where I had to ask the question of myself, where did this strong man archetype arise? Because it seems like because it's a repeating pattern, that we have to go back far in our history to understand why it is that we're still grappling with this kind of archetype energy. And the strongman archetype, as it turns out, isn't new. It's ancient. It rises in cycles, always during times of instability, fear, and transition. Let's trace it now through the myth, history, and the psyche so that we can have a grounded origin story to work with as we begin this series. Okay. Now, the mythological roots begin with the tyrant king. In archetypal terms, the strong man is the shadow king, the ruler who begins as a protector, benevolent even, but over time hoards power, demands loyalty, and punishes dissent. This feels a little bit like the Lord of the Rings, right? You see this mythology in characters in history like Zeus, right? Zeus, the thunder wielding patriarch who rules by force, who is the all in one deity. We see it in Gilgamesh, the ancient king whose strength turns to tyranny during his rule. He starts out benevolent, and people think, oh, this is the king, the good king, and ends up becoming a tyrant. And Kronos, Saturn, who devours his own children to prevent being overthrown, holding on to power with a death grip. And the strong man always emerges in response to chaos or collapse. He promises safety, but demands our submission. Okay? Now let's look at the historical occurrences of the strongman archetype. When order becomes oppression. In times of upheaval, where there's war, where there's economic issues or economic collapse, where there's pandemics and epidemics, social fragmentation, right, where people are broken apart. People are often in a longing for a strong leader at times like that to restore order, to make the world make sense again. And that's when authoritarian figures come up. That's when they rise to the surface. So, some examples from history: Julius Caesar, who literally dismantled the Roman Republic under the guise of saving it. Rome fell. Napoleon, who crowned himself emperor after the French Revolution, after the chaos of a revolution. Hitler and Mussolini, who both used fear, nationalism, and spectacle to gain control of the population. And modern strongman like Putin, like Erdogan in Turkey, like Bolsonaro, and yes, even Trump in this country. And I could name figures from all over the world. Each one emerges in the wake of fear and the erosion of trust in the institutions. And they don't create the chaos, they weaponize it, they use it against us. That's what they do. Now, what are the psychological roots of all of this? You know, the shadow of this collective father kind of figure that we uh, grapple with in times of chaos and fear. In Jungian terms, the strong man is the father complex gone wrong. It's where people feeling abandoned or betrayed by the system seek a surrogate father figure. Now, this is going on in the psychology, like the psyche, right? This isn't you possibly choosing a father figure, right, in your mind out loud. It's all happening in the psyche. And this father figure promises only I can fix it. I'll punish the ones who hurt you. I will restore greatness. You hear the hubris and the arrogance in all of that, the gate 31 gone wrong in all of that. But what he demands is your autonomy, your voice, your discernment. And Pluto's job, especially in Aquarius, is to expose this shadow and to liberate us from it. So the strong man arises when we forget our power, when we forget the power we as individuals have. The strong man doesn't rise because of strength. He rises because of collective disempowerment. And he stays in power as long as we project our authority outward onto him rather than claiming it for ourselves. Now, what's Pluto's role in all of this, right? Let's go back to Pluto, the astrological part of this. Pluto's role really is about death, truth, and power, the three biggies, right? Pluto always strips away the illusion. It doesn't work in shallow waters. It really dives straight down to the soul, straight down to the depths of who you are, of who we are, of what is happening. And now with Pluto moving through Aquarius, we're seeing the unraveling of systems that have long centered around control, ego, and dominance. And this is the death of the empire builder, the king archetype, the authoritarian father figure who demands loyalty over truth. Now, please tell me you guys are drawing the parallels here to what you're seeing in the outer world today, right? I hope you are. It's playing out like right in front of our eyes, right? You just can't deny it, right? It's happening. Now, this is where I might piss some people off, so I'm just going to say ahead of time, this isn't a personal affront against this person because he's playing a role and he's doing his job well. And we're going to talk about Trump as a Pluto in Capricorn archetype, right? The previous archetype, almost the Pluto in Capricorn bleeding into the Pluto in Aquarius before we actually catch on to the new paradigm being brought to us. So let's name it plainly. Donald Trump is the embodiment of Pluto in Capricorn's shadow, the archetype of the strong man who bends institutions to serve himself. He doesn't just love power. He uses it to dominate, to distract, and to divide. Recently, he promised in his pre-election speeches, he promised to release the Epstein list, which set off a firestorm in his own base, right? They got all excited about it because many believed he would expose the elites. But as soon as it became clear this week that he wasn't going to release it, likely because he or his allies are on the list, the backlash began, right? MAGA fought back. And what did he do? What did Trump do? He pivoted. He screamed, Obama committed treason. He directed the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, to go after Obama. It's a textbook distraction. It's classic Pluto in Capricorn misdirection. And the goal is simple: control the emotional narrative. Keep people angry, loyal, and reactive to control them, right? Now, many times I've asked myself the question, how can people be so blind? How can people be so stupid? How can we as people be so dumb, blind, and stupid to have allowed this to happen, right? That's just a question. And let me be clear, people aren't dumb, but we are vulnerable to fear and manipulation. When the world is chaotic, we can fall prey easily to people like Strongman Trump. And he spent years emotionally programming his base to respond to rage over reason, loyalty over logic. So when they start to ask real questions, like, why isn't the Epstein list public? He throws out red meat like treason to regain control, a buzzword, treason. But Pluto in Aquarius, she's not having it, or he is not having it. He is not having it. So this is not collapse. This is not stupidity. This is not dumb people. This is labor. What we're seeing is not the end, it's really the contraction before birth, before the birth of something new. The strong man archetype is dying, but the future, it's crowning. It's just coming into being. And that's what we'll kind of explore in the next part of this series. This is the beginning of a reckoning, not just politically. I mean, it's very visible in the political arena, but it's happening within our souls. It's happening within the soul, the body of the collective. Pluto is shifting us from hierarchical dominance to collective evolution. And if you feel this tension, if you feel the rage, if you're feeling the grief, it's because you remember. You know that we were meant for more than this. You're here to witness the fall. But more importantly, you're here to midwife what comes next. The next in this great history of the collective. So in part 2, we'll talk more about the authoritarian playbook, the deep manipulation of power, and how we can wake up to the spell that it's casting all around us at this point in time. All right, there we go. Tell me what you're feeling. Let's see. Tea and carnage and all are the demolition. Trump and carnage. I'm not sure what you mean, Tom, but who's the demolition crew? South Park is going after him now. Funny. J-Lo, Tom, it's that trick. Don't think about elephants. So now you're thinking about elephants. Exactly. South Park creator said they took a year off because they didn't want to be just tea jokes. Are they on Paramount? I don't know. In plain sight, Asa says. So bullies are cowardly weaklings, and a certain creep in Germany once also said the same. My point exactly, Christine. My point exactly. This is a recreation of a pattern that has been in play many times before through the faces of many other strongmen, right? And it's disturbing to say the least, right? It's disturbing to see it. I time-wise, I'm actually going to go into part 2 today. I'm going to go into part 2 because there's a storyline that I want you all to understand. that let's peel back another layer, then let's say, of this Pluto and Aquarius time, because this isn't just an astrological transit. I mean, of course it is, but it's a full blown revelation to us about how authoritarianism works and how people get manipulated into serving their own oppression and how we break that spell, right? So let's do this. How fascism works. On Monday, I talked about this book that I was reading, How Fascism Works, The Politics of Us and Them by Jason Stanley. And it was written back in 2018, but it is still so true for the times we live in now. And I can't stop thinking about this book. I can't stop thinking about what he brings up because it's terrifying, but it's also clarifying. It reads like a field guide to exactly what we are watching unfold right in front of our eyes every day. Stanley, in his book, outlines tactics that authoritarian leaders use to gain and maintain power. One, they invent a mythic past. Make America great again. Sound familiar? They promote strongmen saviors, right? They bring, oh, he can drain the swamp, right? He can cause the elites to fall. They turn truth into treason, right? They destroy the truth. They obfuscate it. They hide it. They keep the public emotionally hijacked. And they use distraction to maintain control. Right? He can't control the Epstein list and when is it going to come out and who's on it. So Obama did treason. He's going to be, gone taken to court for that. When that didn't work and the Epstein list keeps going, what's next? Aliens, right? Alien invasion. What's it going to take to distract the people away from that list, right? Away from this power that is being, I mean, and it's not just Trump. Please don't take, I'm sure that list has a whole host of people on it that would surprise us down to our very toes. But that's not the point. The point is, how is it being used as a distraction, or how are other things being used as a distraction to the truth of what is happening in the power structures of the country? Now, Trump promised to release those clients' names, right? The Epstein client list, a move that made his base believe that he was fighting for them, that he was fighting the elite, right? But when he backed off, likely because he or his allies are implicated in it, his supporters got restless. So that's when he brought up the next big distraction. He yelled, Obama committed treason, and directs his Justice Department to investigate, to through legal means to bring him to trial. Classic bait and switch, guys. Classic bait and switch. This is not justice. This is emotional control. And it's a textbook tactic out of Stanley's fascism framework, the framework that he puts forth in this book. When your base starts asking questions, give them an enemy instead, right? It's like throw meat to the lions so you can keep doing whatever it is that you were doing. Again, people aren't stupid. They're targeted, right? Let's be honest. This isn't happening because we're dumb. I don't feel like we're all dumb. It's happening because people are overstimulated. There's too much going on. They're distrustful of the media. Thank you very much. We've been lied to. We're exhausted by the complexity of everything that is happening every day, right? And we have this longing for clarity in the chaos. So authoritarian leaders lead or feed off of this by simplifying everything into good and evil, right or wrong, right? Making themselves the only trustworthy source. Only I tell you the truth. And then they offer revenge instead of responsibility. So that's Pluto in Capricorn shadow at its peak. Domination disguised as strength. We're seeing it. It's like smack us in the face right there. So now Pluto in Aquarius can answer back. And Aquarius is allergic to tyranny. There is no way, no how that Aquarius supports tyranny. Pluto in Aquarius doesn't just expose the abuser in the system, it reveals the spell we're under that keeps us from seeing things clearly. It whispers, this isn't strength, it's manipulation. Wake up. So, the rebellion, which Uranus as the ruler of the sign of Aquarius is the rebel, and Pluto, the destroyer or the dismantler, is creating the transformation. We don't dismantle fascism by shouting louder. We dismantle it by reclaiming our critical thinking skills. Stop looking at your telephone. Stop playing your game and nodding off all day. Reclaim your critical thinking capabilities. Refuse to chase every emotional distraction. And telling the truth even when it's unpopular. Basically, I'm kind of doing that this morning, although I think my audience is pretty open to this kind of conversation. There will be those of you who listen and go, mm-mm. But that's exactly what Pluto in Aquarius wants from us. Not passive observation, but active resistance, right? So if you're asking yourself, why do people fall into this trap? Why does it feel like we're trapped in a loop? Or why does truth feel so hard to hold on to? Know this: Pluto in Aquarius is unbinding the spell bit by bit, piece by piece. But our job is we have to be willing to see, to name, and to choose differently. We can't keep choosing to do the same thing. So, what comes after the strong man? How do we step into the role of truth tellers and guides or the midwives for this new world? Because what's being born now needs you, needs me, needs us to participate, right? So the first thing we did here today is we discussed the death of the strong man. And then we took a look at the authoritarian playbook using the How Fascism Works book as a model. Now, let's come home to you, right? Let's come home because this isn't just a collective reckoning. It's also a personal call to action, my personal call to action. So let's take a moment to zoom out because we're really on a cosmic course correction. So this is big, right? It's not just United States or Japan or China, anything like that. It's the whole of the Earth. It's the Earth as part of a solar system. It's the solar system as part of a bigger universe, right? It's all very cosmic. And when Pluto was last in Aquarius, the American Revolution was underway. A rebellion was born with ideals like freedom, equality, representation without, or no taxation without representation, liberation from monarchy and tyranny, right? But those ideals were applied selectively only to a privileged few. So here we are, 250 years later, and Pluto is back. And the question is, will we finish what we started? Will we birth the version of humanity that those ideals hoped for, but never fulfilled? This is the cosmic course correction, right? Fulfilling that full cosmic ideal. So we're not just watching history here, we are reshaping it. You're not here to be a spectator, you're here to be a truth teller, a guide, the midwife, right? Not to restore what was, but to birth what could be. What could be. Every time you speak truth, hold space, or say no more, you're helping end the lineage of oppression that has been recycled for generations, right? Here's the midwife archetype in Pluto's hands. This isn't peaceful. It's not a peaceful candlelit birth. It's messy. It's loud. It's painful. It's grief for the system that's collapsing. It's rage at the gaslighting. It's fear of the unknown. But you hold the light in the dark of this room. You don't run from the contractions. You breathe with them and through them. You're the midwife of a world trying to be born. And Pluto is the force that's clearing the womb, that's contracting the womb. So your role right now is you're being asked to tell the truth where lies are loud. Hold hope when despair is trendy. Refuse manipulation, even when it's wrapped in comfort. Teach others how to think, not what to think. How to think, not what to think. Lead without seeking a throne, right? The new leaders don't want followers. They create space for others to rise. They hold this space for all of us to be our best leaders, our best selves. That's the Aquarian revolution. So if you've felt like giving up, don't. If you felt alone in your clarity and what you see, which I have been feeling, know that others are waking up too. It's endemic at this point. Pluto in Aquarius reminds us that change doesn't come from above, right? It comes from the roots. It rises up from within us, from conversations like this, from people like you, like me. The revolution wasn't finished. It was interrupted. It was hijacked. Now we begin again with clearer eyes and braver hearts. And you? You're part of the birth team. Get on track. Get on track with the rebirthing, the birthing. And, just some thoughts about the American Revolution and the ideals that it brought, right? The idea was freedom and liberation and equality. And when I said only a selective few, think about it. Only rich white men had the power in that ideal system, right? Black men did not have the power. They did not have a vote. They weren't equal. Women did not have the power, did not have the vote, were not considered equal. And in that setting up of that ideal that all men shall be created equal, or should it have been all people were created equal, we didn't quite fulfill the ideal. And we've been struggling with it ever since, right? Through the end of the 1800s, through the end or the beginning of the 1900s, when women, black men got the vote, when women rose up and said, we want the vote too. And then through, into the 50s and 60s and 70s, when the roles of people changed, could you say that, in all honesty, that Black America became as equal as white America? Can you say that women became equal to men? So we're still struggling here. We are still struggling. It's up to us to bring the ideals into the real, where all people are created equal. In this country right now, if you're an immigrant, you are not equal. And nor I'm not saying that they should be either. I'm saying that there are better ways, perhaps, to handle the immigration problem. Perhaps there are better ways to, create a freer world that we live in, a more balanced world, one that is not built upon tyranny. Because if you're a marginalized person in a group that is hated right now the shadow is immigrants, immigrants of all shapes and sizes, right? Then Pluto seeks to bring the margins into the center. Pluto in Aquarius specifically is bringing that to us. And we can expect the rebellion and the revolt, the revolution to occur along those lines where the marginalized need to be brought back into the center. And the center, by definition, then moves out to the margins, right, to become integrated as one whole. It's like when you pour some paint into, on a plate, and then you maybe pour some paint around the outer circle of that paint, and then you swirl them together, right? It becomes homogenized. It becomes, a new entity, really, right? A group of paints and colors that have created something new. That's what we're being called to do, is to kind of create equality for all, right? All right. Yeah, there's so much, Tom. The genocide of the First Nations. I mean, we stand here in this country on the backs of the indigenous people that we decimated in order to create our manifest destiny, right? Other countries have done the same. And, there's, I mean, Lord, I could go into so many different things. Sarah Ravenseye, good morning. The energy in the air is so intense. I hope people feel empowered to stand up for their well being. All voices have significance and purpose. No one should feel they have to compete for worth and value. So true. Um, Christine, start going to monthly school board meetings and make your voice heard. You'll be helping many. I think that's in response to something that JLo had said. And here's the case, right? You are not powerless. Now, there's, I'm not saying you all need to go out and, run for office, and because I'm not going to, right? I'm too emotional when I get into things like that. I am a much better teacher than I am a politician. I wouldn't be able to do it. At least not do it and do it well. So know what it is that your strengths are and what part it is that you can play, because even if it is just you having a conversation with a family member, you're empowering that family member. If you are someone who is more community oriented and you find yourself in a community at the school board meetings or in a leadership role in a school board meeting, bring your true self, your authentic self to the meeting without, succumbing to the power structure. If you are more worldly oriented, then, step up to the plate. The world needs you. Right? The world needs those voices, those people to stand up in their power. And your power isn't in the strong man, right? It isn't in the manipulation and control. It's in the allowing everyone to rise equally and have equal benefits under the law, but just under a greater law than the laws of a country, but the laws of the divine, right? Divine laws. Don't get us started. Exactly. I think I did get you started. I think that was my whole purpose in the end here, was to get it started. Let's get this party started. We can keep sitting back and allowing the things that we see going on in our world to keep going on. Or we can do something to stop it. We can, you have your voice, you have your vote, and you have your dollars, right? Your money. What do you spend it on? Right? Being wise about how you use those resources that are at your disposal so that you're supporting rather than going against something, right? You're supporting agencies that help feed the homeless or whatever it is that, is your particular role that you want to play. Use your voice to support, not to degrade or divide or bash, right? Use your voices positively. All right, I feel a little wrung out this morning. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've gained something from all of this. I think I will do a card before I go because I feel like we need something. Oh, Wisdom of Avalon. Maybe Avalon. Oh, how apropos is that, right? Because Avalon, that was the time of the round table, the Knights of the Round Table. The first, even if it's a myth, the first putting into words how leadership was meant to be, right? So let's get a Wisdom of Avalon oracle card. The Raven. Magic, coincidence, synchronistic events. The Raven. How awesome. Card number 10, representing the higher octave of a new beginning, the 1. So let's see what that has to say. By the way, this is an older deck from Colette Baron Reed, but it was always one of my favorite decks to use. When the raven appears, it's a sign of magic, where coincidence and divine synchronicity bring surprising elements together. The raven reminds you that on the path to wholeness, the magic of Avalon appears and all things become possible. Ask the raven to help you be aware of synchronicity in your life and to see how the god and goddess works anonymously on your path. If you feel hopeless or lost, you may need reminding that this kind of magic occurs in your life daily. Even if you can't see it, trust it to bring joy, understanding, and fulfillment to your life, no matter what the present circumstances appear to be. Remember, the raven says, believe in magic, and you cannot help but see it. Magic lives within the belief itself. Expect the unexpected and prepare to be amazed. All right, there you have it. The Raven. I love it. And I love it, Sarah Raven's Eye, that you joined us this morning on the day that I would pull the card, The Raven. Too funny. Synchronicity. What is it, the synchronicity there? All right, you guys, that's it for me. I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. It is a quiet weekend. This is why I was able to do so much of this other stuff, because the weekend itself, we have the sun opposing Pluto today, and after that, it's quiet until next week. All right. See you on Monday. Bye.